Okay. So image-bearing mission practitioner. Um, just to let you know, in the next session, you're going to have Dr. Renee come and define missiology, and she'll unpack mission practitioner and so on for you. So what is our mission? And again, like I said, we have covered image bearing a lot. And so Genesis 1:27 speaks to God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And so pre-fall, before the fall, we are meant to, if you go through Genesis 1:27 to 31, we're meant to rule God's creation. Genesis 2, we're meant to garden, be good stewards of his creation. We're meant to garden. We're meant to organize order. You see Adam naming all the animals. And we're meant to be his divine ambassador. And that's what image bearing means. We're meant to represent God. And who are we to practice this with? Well, each other and the whole of creation. Like, this is the role of humanity as a whole. And that's the key I want to mention. Image bearing is a humanity thing, not just an individual thing. So again, going back to what we studied in about Trinity, triune God, the God we are proclaiming is not a distant God. He's a tabernacling God. And therefore images of God. Again, that's a phrase Michael Heiser uses. I think it was a really nice phrase. We're not distant. So again, missionally, we are doing mission with people. We build relationships. Again, because God we are proclaiming is a missional tabernacling God. Okay, that hopefully makes sense. But here's the key that I wanted to highlight and maybe discuss. We're not just doing this individualistically, but as a family of tabernacling mission practitioners. And that's how it was pre-fall. We're not just individual image bearers, although we are obviously individual, but we make up the collective of humanity. So imagine the whole world full of humans that are image bearing images of God, doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's really the mission that we are called to. Hopefully that makes sense. But then our image is corrupted in the post-fall. And if you look at Genesis 5:3, Adam lived 130 years. He had a son in his own likeness and in his own image. He named him Seth. So post-fall, our image is corrupted. And the result is we are not doing what we are meant to be doing. And all of humanity has the same affliction of being in the image of Adam. That also means loss of tabernacling mission practice. Just the way God is, he wants us to be, we reject that, and the result is we corrupt our image and we introduce hierarchy. Genesis 3:16 is a great example of that. Your desire will be for your husband, he will rule over you. Genesis 1:27 says nothing of that sort. There's no ruling over each other. It's ruling over creation together. And yet, here we see the introduction of hierarchy. That's what happened. And that's what happens even now. And then Jesus comes as the perfect image bearer. And I mentioned that in the Q&R earlier. Hebrews 1 is an example of that. 2 Corinthians 4 speaks to Jesus being in the image of God, because that's what Jesus did. He came and he shows us how to be image bearers. So I'll say this, and maybe it will take a minute. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If not now, you can message me. So Jesus is not the anomaly, meaning Jesus is not the unique one. We are. What I mean by that is we were created to be God's image bearers. We rejected that as a collective. Jesus is God's image bearer. So technically, we all should be God's image bearers, but we are not. And that's really where Jesus comes in and he shows us what it looks like to be God's image bearers. He's the tabernacling mission practitioner. And look at how he serves. He serves, he comes to serve and not, Jesus comes not to be served, but to serve, to give his life as a ransom for many. And then he sends us out. This is between the post-fall and new creation. When Jesus returns, we are to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. So again, go and make disciples, go and make learners. And another perspective, again, this is something that we've seen many times, we've studied it out, we've talked about it. But another perspective of learners is learning to be imagers of God. And then we teach others to be imagers of God. Again, important in missiology, because in the history of mission, this has not always been a focus. So you can think about what would it have been had, again, I'm not trying to judge, like paint with broad strokes. They may be image bearers, learning to be image bearers rather, in mission to Africa, to India. I don't know all the missionaries who went out and about and such. So I can't judge. God knows all that stuff. That being said, we know there's historically evidence and result of colonialism, missional, everything kind of gets, warped into one. And the result of it and so on, economic injustice and so on and so forth. So what if missionaries went out as learners to be image bearers, teaching others and learning from others to be image bearers? That's all I'm trying to say. And that's something we can definitely do something about. We can't change the past, but we can do something about, to be intentional learners of image bearers and then learning and teaching others. We're doing this as a collective community. It's from Romans 8:28. We're learning to be image bearers as family of tabernacling mission practitioners, as partners living as new creation communities, not just individualistically. So it's I proclaim the triune God, replaced by we as a collective proclaim the triune God by word, deed, and character of the image-bearing mission practitioner.